the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast, where we discuss all things crypto related. Your host, Kieran Ryan.
One of the benefits or pitfalls of exchange controls is it makes crypto assets more expensive in South Africa than on overseas exchanges. That opens up opportunities for arbitrage, where it's possible to buy Bitcoin or US dollar stable coins abroad and sell them locally. Now, despite many people predicting the end of the crypto arbitrage market, it's still going strong, it appears, even though the profit margins have dwindled over the years as more and more people have got involved. Joining us to look into this is Ben Jordan, Chief Revenue Officer at crypto arbitrage company Shiftly. Hi, Ben. Thanks very much for joining us on the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast. Let's start off with the state of the crypto arbitrage market. It has been written off before, but the premiums or the profits are at a pretty low point at the moment. Maybe explain why that is.
Thanks for having me on the show. So we have had a look, and it does appear that the volumes in the markets are still consistent. If you look at the daily averages traded on your exchanges like Luno and Valor, what it points towards is that there could be a bit of an oversupply in the market potentially. So it could be that there's some providers who are really bringing in some supply into the market at a really low cost, which could be driving down the premiums currently.
Right. When you say bringing in supply of what?
So that will be your underlying crypto assets. Could be Bitcoin, could be the US dollar stable coins, USDT, USDC. It could be Ethereum, sometimes a bit of XRP as well.
So there's an oversupply of these crypto assets coming into the market, and that's driving down the arbitrage premium. Is that right?
Yes. Well, that can be one of the reasons. It could also be that there's less demand, but as I mentioned, had a look on the exchanges, and it doesn't seem to be that the demand's down a lot. So it's leaning towards perhaps a supply side, a supply increase.
Are there more people doing crypto arbitrage today than there were last year or the year before?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. The industry as a whole, the crypto asset industry in South Africa got regulated the FSCA started issuing licenses last year, June. Which meant that crypto arbitrage providers like ourselves now had a license, and we could actually start advertising, and it gives some clout and it gives some credibility when you have a license. So I think all of the arbitrage providers and the industry as a whole has started to advertise and onboard more and more clients, which as I mentioned earlier, then that would increase your supply of the coins coming into South Africa, which then depresses or decreases the premium, which is good if you're on the buy side. If you're buying a coin in South Africa now, it's cheaper. It's more, closer to the price in the US or in the UK. But for us trying to make a profit for our clients, it becomes quite difficult.
Right. And I guess the other factor that influences the crypto arbitrage profit is the exchange rate. And we've seen in the past when the South African Rand US dollar exchange rate strengthens, as it did quite recently, the crypto arbitrage premium diminishes. A lot of people are saying, well, how long will this last? How long will the Rand remain strong? When it weakens again, we should see that gap open up. What is your take on all of this?
Yeah, Kieran, actually, I think from our experience, we found sometimes when the Rand strengthens, the Bitcoin becomes a bit cheaper to buy, overseas as well as locally. So it kind of stirs up a bit of demand. So the premium sometimes increases when the Rand strengthens. The same can be said about the Bitcoin price. Sometimes when the Bitcoin price decreases, you'd find that the arbitrage premium is just increasing. And it could just be that there's a dislocation between America and South Africa. So, if the Bitcoin becomes cheaper in America and we are buying it for the cheaper price that side, we can bring it back and still make a larger profit by selling it here in South Africa. Almost like the South African market lags these price movements a bit. Yeah.
So does the crypto arbitrage market like volatility? They like to see the Rand bouncing around the place.
In the past, that has been the case, yes. It has really helped us. This point where we are this year, it's reacting a bit differently than usual. It's been quite suppressed for the last month or two now. Hence perhaps a supply side.
It's interesting that you say since
volume.
regulation that more and more people are getting involved. What kind of people are now entering into the crypto arbitrage market?
I think, most or a lot of us are looking to financial advisors to look at their clients, like you mentioned to me, you've also been involved in this industry, and all of our clients to date are, friends and family and word of mouth clients or people who understood the investment. What it's becoming, the new entrants into the market, new clients are now, people who a financial advisor can sit with them and say, listen, there's crypto arbitrage service providers. This is the kind of investment they do. Speak to them about this investment. It's a bit of an alternative investment, but for most people, who have a 200 to 500,000 lying around that they can invest in a bit of an alternate investment, it's becoming, I guess, mainstream or well known in the financial markets.
And so are these wealth advisors and more established fund managers, are they starting to look at this more seriously?
Definitely. I think if you are a wealth advisor or a fund manager and you're not looking at it, you could be left behind. There could be some fund managers who introduce this to their clients and make them a really decent return because it is equivalent to, almost a fixed deposit at a bank. Your capital is liquid. So, you could find that you fall behind if you don't offer the product, which offers a decent yield and return compared to just, a fixed deposit at the bank.
So what is the arbitrage premium at the moment? I mean, back in the day when, if you go back to 2017, there were times when the arbitrage premium was 6%, 8%. So, you could send 200,000 Rand abroad, and on the same day, you could sell that. You'd buy Bitcoin abroad, you'd bring it back to South Africa, and you'd sell it for, maybe 6% profit. But those days are clearly gone. Where are we at today?
Yeah, Ken, don't remind me. So currently, it's the gross premium sitting at 0.8%. It's trending between 0.7 and about 1. That's just the last month. Before that, and in the last year and in the last 2-3 years, it's been steadily declining from around 3%, 3.5% to down to 2.5%, down to 1.5%. So over time, as you would expect any arbitrage opportunity, it is declining. So as more market participants enter, it's steadily declining.
And that does raise the question, the arbitrage premium is diminishing. Are we likely to see it widen again at some point? Because it comes and it goes, right?
Yes. And so I guess the fundamental principle is someone needs to do the arbitrage. As long as South Africa has exchange control regulations in place, there will be a disparity and a arbitrage premium will exist between, offshore and local exchanges. So there will be a premium on these currencies. It's just how much will that premium be and who will be the remaining market participants performing the arbitrage transaction, making sure that the prices between South Africa and overseas, pull together and get as close as possible to each other.
All right. So tell us about Shiftly, when it started, how did you get involved, and maybe tell us a bit about your clients. Are they more seasoned investors, people who understand the crypto market, or are they newbies?
No, so our founders, Chris and Carl, they got into kind of Bitcoin and arbitrage back in 2014. They then started Shiftly, officially opened the doors in 2019 as a business to the public. And it's been going since then. So we've got a 6-year long track record, processed over 30 billion Rand in volumes, returned a few 100 million, 300 million, more than 300 million to clients in profits. And Yeah, I got involved in 2020 just because I really love the industry. It was quite a rewarding industry to be in if you refer friends and family and they make, like you said, the high premiums back then, they make 150,000 Rand profit. They kind of like you, your friends and family quite stoked with you. That's us. I think as a business, we will continue in the industry to try and remain and be one of the lowest cost providers. I think we are well suited for that, as Shiftly focuses strongly on our technology and our software.
Because I think all of your competitors, your Future Forex, Currency Hub, Duya, they would say, well, we're also, very strongly technology focused. So how do you differentiate?
Yeah, good question. And so we recently had an investor evening and I had to run these numbers. So we have, I spoke to the developers, we have 75 tasks, automated system-driven tasks, and we have 15 automated background tasks. So what that means is we are quite a small specialized team, only 15 employees compared to some of the others who have more than 100 employees, So what that means is, with a small team of five to 10 people even, they have 75 tasks, right? Software automated tasks, which they can run on a client or on a process that they have to do, which they can just click on the client and click on a drop down list and say, run this task, run this task, run this task, which then saves them all of the time of having to go into that client and process, the ID document or the proof of address or, anything tax related.
You're talking here about the onboarding process.
Yes.
You've automated that.
Yes. So there's quite a few steps, as you know, through the whole process, even the operational side of it.
So how long does it take to onboard somebody?
Well, that depends 100% on the quality of information that the client provided. If the client provided all of the correct documents up front, 1 day, and bank account opening between 1 and 3 business days. So if you gave all your information on Monday and it was correct, you could be trading by Thursday, Friday. It could be online.
Okay, so within a few days you could be onboarded and arbitraging. And so you say that your costs are lower. All right, maybe that's disputed by your competitors. I don't know, but just elaborate on that. How is it that you get your costs down, and what are those costs?
Yeah, so like I said, we're very software focused with a small team, right? So from the start, we've built the business to be lean, not to have any excess costs, and the whole reason for that is to keep the cost as low as possible, to keep our fees as low as possible, to make sure that the client receives the most profit in their account. Because we know that the arbitrage premium is going to come down and the last remaining providers are going to be the lowest cost providers. So, our other strategy together with that is to only accept clients trading with 200,000 or more, investing 200,000 or more, because at the current low arbitrage conditions, if you just have 100,000 Rand, you will not make a profit, or a very small profit. It's not worth your while.
Maybe just explain that. Why you're not making a profit at 100,000, whereas at 200,000 you do. You've got some fixed costs that you cannot negotiate with, right? Some of that would be SWIFT fees. Some of it might be bank commissions.
100% correct. And so for every international transfer of funds, even if you're doing it in your personal capacity, for a holiday or into a friend's account for a gift, whenever you're doing a SWIFT payment overseas, the bank and the SWIFT network charges you a fixed 500 Rand fee, which means, a 500 Rand over 100,000 is quite a large percentage. It's 0.5% of your return, right? If the return is 1%, that bank fee is taking half of your return, So if you take the 500 Rand fixed fee on a 200,000 Rand investment, it's only a 0.25% of your return. So if you're returning 1% on a transaction, then you only kind of paying the bank 0.25%. So your return is automatically more by 0.25. And if you times that by 11 million, which is the amount that you can use for your arbitrage in a year, that's 25,000 rand additional profit that you make from just by trading with 200,000 versus 100,000.
Right. So, and do you take a percentage of profits? How do you charge?
So our fees work as 0.2% of the rands that converted into foreign currency. So solely as a treasury outsourcing company would charge. We only charge for the FX leg of the transaction.
Sorry, you only charge for the conversion from rands to dollars?
Yes. Yeah. Only the 0.2%. Foreign currency. Yes.
Okay. So what would be the, on average, the net return that your customers earn?
Can I disclaim? Can I give last year's number, because that's an actual number that we have? So last year, 2024, the average return on investment, if you had invested 200,000 rand, would have been 52%.
52% is pretty good.
It's amazing. Good. It was
so. And I think maybe we should also explain that you can use you got 11 million rand. Most South Africans, provided you got tax clearance, you have 11 million rands per year that you can use for arbitrage. So if you are turning over 11 million rand at a 52% return, sorry, that's not the capital that you it's 200,000. So 50% on 200,000, you'd be making a little bit over 100,000 rand in profit.
That's correct. Yep.
Per year.
Yep. Per year,
that's payable on that, but that's a pretty good return compared to stock exchange and other investments out there.
Yes, Kieran. So even compared to those kind of higher risk investments and higher volatility investments, it's still an amazing return. But actually this investment needs to be compared to a fixed deposit or a very liquid and capital stable investment, right? Because you're not necessarily, it doesn't work exactly like equities where your 200,000 drops to 190,000 and then to 210,000 as the share price fluctuates. You investing the capital one day, you make a small profit and you get your money back the next day, and then you can choose to stop the investment or continue the investment and so forth. So it almost like interest, it builds up over time, your return.
Right. So, I mean, I guess the question a lot of people were saying is a lot of new people entering into the crypto arbitrage market. The profits are getting less and less, but still at 52%, that's quite impressive. Do you foresee a time when maybe the crypto arbitrage market disappears? And I remember asking this years ago, and I think the answer I know. But anyway, I want to hear your answer.
Yeah, and so our famous saying is we've been saying that the arbitrage is only going to last 2 more years since 2019. We always say 2 more years, and here we are 6 years later, and it's still going. Like I said earlier, it's going to trend lower, and our aim is to return to a client between 20 and 30% return on investment. I think if we as arbitrage service providers can return between 20 and 30% return to clients on 200,000 rand, it should remain viable. If the premium goes lower and lower and we can't return that, I think it's going to become tough.
So what are you going to do if that day comes? Close your doors?
Well, no. I guess we will try and cut as much as we can to be the last arbitrage service provider standing and service our clients. And like I said, someone's got to do it. Someone has to bring in these coins. Otherwise, the arbitrage premium is going to go up. So if everyone stops, it will go up because there will be no supply. So it's all about, being in at the lowest cost and the biggest volumes. Yeah.
Right.
That's the aim of the game.
Yeah, I've got a spreadsheet here. I monitor this fairly frequently. What is the arbitrage premium, as you call it, the difference between local and overseas prices for Tether and Bitcoin? And there have been periods when it's actually gone negative, where it's been cheaper to buy Bitcoin, believe it or not, in South Africa than it is overseas. Those are rare occasions, but it does happen. And so the market can really disappear for a few months, and then all of a sudden it comes back, it bounces back. So the idea that you can write this off, even if you were to do away with exchange controls, there would be some anomalies which would, I think, allow this market to continue. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah, I agree, and I most certainly hope for that. We have seen, like you said, negative turns, and we have seen bounce backs, and it's all about, I said to the guys earlier, you get hardened. This industry hardens you, and it teaches you to live below your means,
Right. So your business model is just to keep your overheads low. You don't employ too many people, and your intention is to be the last man standing.
That's right.
Okay. All right, Ben Jordan, we're going to leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us on the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast.
Thanks very much, too.
Thanks for listening to the Moneyweb Crypto Podcast, hosted by Kieran Ryan. To listen to our other podcasts, go to moneyweb.co.za or the Moneyweb app and follow Moneyweb News for daily updates.